Welcome to Audit Archive, where we run you through some of the most questionable and rather atrocious police encounters. Today, we're looking at a case where a drunk police officer got pulled over and had the audacity to demand special treatment from his fellow officers. On December 5, 2020, an Arizona State University police officer was out on patrol when he spotted a white Dodge Challenger allegedly pulling out of a bar at a high rate of speed. Upon witnessing this, the ASU officer pursued the vehicle and clocked it going approximately 60 miles per hour in a 40 mile per hour zone. On top of this, the ASU officer also saw the vehicle swerve lanes, driving in and out of the fast lane and the bike lane several times. Therefore, the ASU officer decided to initiate a traffic stop and eventually pulled the driver over.
Hey man.
What's up, brother?
Yeah, I'm Officer Davis, AC Police.
I got you, brother.
Hey, how much you had to drink today, man?
It's a couple drinks.
Couple drinks?
Yeah.
Alright.
The driver here is 26-year-old Julian Navarrete, a fellow police officer working at the Pinal County Sheriff's Office as a deputy. Right off the bat, Mr. Navarrete made sure that the ASU officer was well aware of the fact that he was dealing with a fellow officer.
Who do you work for now?
For now.
You deputy or detention or what?
Deputy.
Alright. You got your gun on you?
I ain't got me now.
Alright, man.
As it was later reported by the ASU officer that Mr. Navarrete already had his driver's license out and also made it a point to show me his Pinal County Sheriff's Office ID. This already gives us a hint of what's to come next, as Mr. Navarrete was already looking to be treated differently. Regardless, since the ASU officer reportedly smelled a strong odor of alcohol on Mr. Navarrete, he asked him how much he had to drink that night, to which Mr. Navarrete replied that he had just a couple of drinks, implying that he was not drunk and definitely sober enough to drive. However, Mr. Navarrete displayed all signs of being drunk, including slurred speech and bloodshot eyes. Therefore, the ASU officer requested him to step out so that he could conduct a DUI investigation.
Well, you've been drinking, right?
A couple drinks, yeah.
How come you're driving? Dude, you're all over the place. You had too much to drink, man? I had a couple
Arnold University.
I'm not gonna lie.
No 28 is going to be
Alright,
a
man. Why
white
don't you go ahead and hop out?
Chevy Sonic.
The body cam footage makes it pretty obvious that Mr. Navarrete expected to be treated differently by his fellow officer, potentially being let go without consequences.
Alright, well, we're gonna do a DUI investigation, man. You're all over the place.
However, the ASU officer stood firm to his oath of upholding the law and informed Mr. Navarrete that they would be doing HGN, otherwise known as the horizontal gaze nystagmus, which is a standardized field sobriety test that police often administer in order to gauge whether you're under the influence of alcohol and should therefore be arrested for DUI. At this point, the ASU officer's sergeant also showed up on the scene, while Mr. Navarrete continued to try and escape the consequences of driving under the influence.
What are we going through right now?
We're gonna do HGN.
Can we let anybody else in the vehicle go through this?
Why would we do that?
So we can go home?
But you've been drinking, dude, and you were driving.
Yeah, but I'm also a police officer.
That doesn't excuse your behavior.
I know. But I don't think I was also all over the road.
I'm telling you what I saw.
Yeah.
Okay?
I got you.
You've told me you were drinking,
Yeah.
right?
But it's also...
It doesn't matter if you're an officer or not.
Then that puts me my job at risk, right?
You don't think it's going to put mine at risk if I don't do this?
Dude, I understand. But can I maybe someone else put behind the wheel? Behind the wheel?
You see, you're slurring your words.
I am. I understand that.
Yeah.
During his negotiations, Mr. Navarrete went as far as to request the ASU officer to let someone else go through the DUI investigation instead. And what's worse is that Mr. Navarrete reasoned that he was also a police officer and didn't want to risk his career because of this, implying that he should be pardoned and let go. As Mr. Navarrete began to realize that the ASU officer would not treat him differently, despite being a fellow officer, he tried to speak with the sergeant in hopes of escaping the situation. However, after a series of questions asked by the sergeant, Mr. Navarrete gave up and finally complied by agreeing to take the DUI test in order to determine whether he was impaired or not.
Will you do these tests so we can see if you're impaired or not? If you're not, then cool. If you are, then we have another thing to take care of.
What are you gonna hit me with?
923 490.
I don't know. But we need to first look at, are you impaired or not?
As this went on, Mr. Navarrete let out a racial slur while speaking with the ASU officer, who then immediately told him to mind his language.
Dude, listen. This isn't New York, man. Okay?
New York, nigga. I'm from Arizona, dude. I'm not from New York.
Dude, first of all, watch your mouth.
After the short confrontation, the officers on the scene initiated the DUI investigation, and Mr. Navarrete was then subject to a few DUI exercises to determine whether he was too drunk to drive. Right before beginning the DUI exercises, Mr. Navarrete claimed that the test wouldn't help, as he already knew he was drunk anyway.
Okay, we'll try to get this done as quick as possible, alright?
Hey, shit ain't gonna help you, dude. I already know I'm drunk, dude.
Alright.
According to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, there are 3 types of standardized field sobriety tests that an individual is subjected to in the case that an officer suspects that they are under the influence of alcohol. The first one, as discussed earlier, is the horizontal gaze nystagmus, while the second and third are the walk and turn test and the one-leg stand test. These 3 exercises assess balance, coordination, and the ability of the driver to divide their attention to more than one task. It is also stated that if the driver fails any of these exercises, the officer will then ask the suspect to take a breath test or a chemical test to confirm their blood alcohol content. In this case, Mr. Navarrete failed to perform adequately on all 3 of the exercises conducted by the ASU officer and was consequently subject to a breathalyzer test in order to determine the alcohol levels in his body.
Blah, 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 blah. Alright. 4 of 6 HGN. 2 on one leg stand. 2 on walk and turn.
As made evident in the body cam footage, Mr. Navarrete blew a .121 in the test, which was well above the limit. According to the Arizona Department of Public Safety, citizens that are age 21 or above can receive a DUI charge if their blood alcohol concentration is above 0.08%. Mr. Navarrete here blew almost twice the legal limit and was therefore rightfully placed under arrest by the ASU officer for driving under the influence.
Hey, Julian, man. Here's the deal, brother. You're a .121.
Okay.
Okay? You're well over the legal limit. Alright. So right now I am going to place you under arrest for DUI.
Upon hearing this, Mr. Navarrete immediately began his negotiations yet again, trying to get the officers to charge him with something else that would potentially be less of a threat to his career as compared to the DUI charge.
Can we call for something else?
For what?
So we not go through this whole thing?
What do you mean?
So it jeopardizes my career?
Despite this, both the sergeant and the officer explained to Mr. Navarrete that he essentially put himself in that situation and that he would have to pay the price regardless.
Man, I have to tell you, you did that to yourself.
Mr. Navarrete was then walked to the ASU officer's patrol car, where he was patted down and then secured inside. Amidst this, Mr. Navarrete threw a temper tantrum and complained about why he had to sit in the back of a patrol vehicle, just like the suspects they usually arrest.
Sit down, man.
Can I get my fucking... Can I put him at least in front so I don't fucking feel like a fucking dumbass like these motherfuckers that in here?
Implying that he perceived himself far superior to the people he had ever detained or arrested on duty. He also displayed anger towards his fellow officers, as if they had done something unjust to him. This simply goes to show that Mr. Navarrete's approach to policing as a whole was terribly incorrect and unethical. After arriving at the ASU police station, Mr. Navarrete continued to display aggression and hostility. When asked if he was okay with taking another breath test, Mr. Navarrete complied and agreed to do so.
Nice deep breath. And go, 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 go.
This second breath test showed him to have a blood alcohol content of between 0.147% and 0.144%. During this test, the ASU officer's body cam footage catches Mr. Navarrete telling the officer that he could have just let him park the car and there would be no report to fill out.
And you should have fucking gave me a chance to park the fucking car and said, hey, walk, motherfucker. Here's your license, walk. Gladly, motherfucker, gladly. Because that's what I would have fucking done.
I'd have done the same thing even if I didn't have a body cam.
You could have fucking gave me opportunities to park the car. I am putting in fucking danger. I am fucking going on oncoming traffic. No one reported.
The fact that you're telling me that tells me you shouldn't be an officer.
Fucking A. Okay. Because you're perfect, right?
To this, the officer responded by telling Mr. Navarrete that the fact that you're telling me that tells me you shouldn't be an officer, which once again illustrated the officer's honesty and credibility. After all of the documentation, Mr. Navarrete was cited and placed in a holding cell while he waited for an Uber that his girlfriend had called for him. Despite this entire incident, Mr. Navarrete's professional career did not suffer irreparable damage. As per a statement released sometime later from a representative of the sheriff's office to KPNX, Mr. Navarrete was assigned to modified duty after the incident, which precluded him from operating a sheriff's vehicle independently. However, the sheriff's office did acknowledge that Navarrete was presently under internal investigation in relation to the incident. A few months later, in August 2021, the media outlet Penal Central reported that the Arizona Peace Officer Standards and Training Board is considering the possibility of revoking the certifications of Pinal County Sheriff's Deputy Julian Navarrete. The article also implied that Mr. Navarrete would not be able to serve as a law enforcement officer in the state without certification from the board. However, no further updates were provided, which leads us to assume that Mr. Navarrete is still known as Deputy Navarrete at the Pinal County Sheriff's Office. Be sure to check out our previous video where we cover another outrageous police encounter.